Hello and welcome to the ORH Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Finley and I'm joined by Adam Driscoll as usual. How are you doing, Adam?
Yeah, all good, thanks, mate. Obviously we've had time to digest another defeat on Saturday, but there's still, you know, what we've seen, conversation around what's the best thing to do, and it's a bit of a strange time to be a Luton fan still, as we've been saying for a long time. But we'll come on to that, and look ahead to another home game on Saturday against Doncaster.
Yeah, and at time of recording, Lincoln are currently beating Chelsea 1-0 in the EFL Cup. So we're basically as good as the world champions in my mind. I think that's fair to say, but if that changes, I'm sure we'll make a comment about it on today's podcast as we record. So that gives you an idea of when we're recording these episodes. But we'll get straight into things. But before that, don't forget to check out oakroadhatter.com for all the latest Oak Road Hatter content, whether that's website articles, blogs, or the most recent podcast. You can find everything on there, including our merch. But yeah, as I mentioned, let's get straight into it, and we're talking all things Luton versus Doncaster this Saturday. They visit us currently sitting 7th in the table at time of recording, whilst we're 11th, obviously with a game in hand over a few of those teams because of the Blackpool game being rearranged. But it is a Doncaster side that, as things stand, have a better record than us. They've played 9, won 5, drawn 1, and lost 3, whilst we've won 4 and lost 4 out of 8 games. So it certainly will be a test at this level, Adam.
Yeah, I think so. You might not have thought that at the start of the season, particularly as they've obviously come up from League Two, but ultimately they won League Two, and they're a team that seem to have come up with momentum, and a manager in Grant McCann who knows what League One's about as well. But you wouldn't have necessarily thought, when we're sitting here previewing our ninth game, that we'd be seeing this as the challenge that it will be. So yeah, it's gonna be a game that we again need to get on the front foot, need to put our authority on it, need to show signs and of an identity, patterns of play. And we've already spoken earlier in the week around maybe how we've not done that yet. But it is going to be a tough game. For all those reasons I mentioned, that momentum and the manager that they've got in charge, they're going to come to us and think they can get something, and rightly so, really, given the start to the season for both teams.
Yeah, you mentioned sort of the momentum they'll be looking to take into it. They've actually lost their last 2. So they lost 2-1 at home against Wimbledon in the most recent game. Although in that game, they did see Owen Bailey, who's sort of a defensive midfielder, actually score his 5th league goal of the season from midfield for them. So I think that shows you where a large part of their threat is coming from. Before that, they lost 3-0 to Wigan Athletic, again in the league as well, which is sort of, I guess, is quite a surprising result given what we've seen from Wigan when we face them. When we do come to play them, they will have played Tottenham away from home in the EFL Cup on Wednesday night. So you'd like to think that there are a few players that will be sort of a bit leggy from that. We'll talk a bit more about the key men a bit later on. But do you think that will have much of an impact on the game on Saturday?
I think it depends on what their intentions are in the cup. If they go full strength because they think they can get something, then yes, it probably will, because you're going to be chasing Tottenham around the pitch for the best part of the game. Um, and it's Wednesday night, and then obviously they'd probably train Thursday, travel maybe late Friday or Saturday morning, probably Friday. So yeah, I think it potentially could have an impact. I mean, on the flip side, if they go with a changed team and then they bring on a few first team players for the last 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe less so. But given that their attention will be on the Spurs game, I would say it will have an impact on them. That said, you're talking about us needing to then exploit that. So that's a different conversation in itself, isn't it? We should, in theory, be fresher, um, and in a position to show that intent in a home game. But it's up to us to use that to our advantage as well if it does turn out to be the case.
Yeah, it will be all on Luton in this game. Just an update: we're no longer as good as the world champions. Chelsea are now winning 2-1.
That escalated quickly.
Yeah, it escalated a lot quicker than I think I was expecting when I checked the scores. So I probably won't try and keep up with that throughout the pod. Yeah, let's talk a bit more about this Doncaster side because there are a few familiar faces in there, especially to the EFL fans, people who are keen in watching as much EFL as possible or know a bit, or maybe some people who play fantasy EFL. Like I know Jamie's a big fantasy EFL man. Let's look at the key men. So obviously we've mentioned Owen Bailey there, scoring 5 from sort of defensive midfield, which for 9 games into the season is really, really good numbers.
Yeah, I mean he's obviously doing something right. I don't claim to have seen the goals and how they've come about, but if he's popping up in the box to score those goals, then clearly he's a defensive midfielder that likes to make those runs and get into the box. So definitely one to keep an eye on. I don't know whether they've come from penalties, to be honest. I suspect probably not. But yeah, he's clearly doing something right. But then you can't put all your focus on him because there's clearly other talent they've got as well. I mean, particularly in attack, you've got Luke Molyneux scored 16 goals last season in League Two, which certainly not to be sniffed at. And then they've got Billy Sharp up front, who is one of the best football league strikers of the last don't know how many years, like 15, 20 years. So, and again, like yes, age is probably against him, but for this level, you're talking about a player that, given half a chance, will probably put it in the back of the net. So clearly they have these threats. And then, as we mentioned already, you've got Grant McCann as a manager that's organising them and has done incredibly well with them last season and into this season. So yeah, I mean, it's a game we're gonna have to be bang on it and give it the respect that it deserves. Um, beyond their attack, they've got a couple of ex-Luton players, Matty Pearson at centre half, and then Jack Senior as well. At I think probably more of a squad player with regards to their left back position, but yeah, 2 players there that we're fairly familiar with, and Pearson scored some great headers from set pieces for us when he was with us. So again, another threat we'll have to be wary of.
Yeah, we've already faced Sonny Bradley in our most recent game, and we'll be facing his defensive partner for a large part of that if Pearson plays. Obviously, he didn't feature in the last league game, so whether or not he plays will be another question. I just wanted to talk a bit more about Luke Molyneux there because you obviously put a spotlight on him, and he is probably the one player that a lot of teams will be looking out for when they come up against Doncaster, just based on purely what he did last season with those 16 goals, 12 assists from generally wide areas, which is some serious numbers for anyone, but particularly if you're cutting in off the wing and it's not even a striker. He could be a serious threat on that right hand side when we don't know whether he'll be playing against Ali or Bramall or someone else, and with sort of the inconsistency we've got in those wide areas and sort of there's just a lack of real structure, he is someone that could cause problems.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I hadn't realised that he also got 12 assists last season. So, um, yeah, I mean, 28 goal contributions is brilliant at whatever level you're at. And you're right. It's going to really come down to what is the role of our wing backs on the day. Like, do we have enough control in midfield to for the wing backs, whoever they might be? Obviously, we know it's quite hard to predict who we're going to play at wing back, but do we have enough control in midfield to see them be as attacking as they were against Burton, or do we see a lack of control in midfield, which means they're going to be given the runaround like they were at Bradford, for example, when like both of them got booked within the first sort of half an hour or so, and both of them got subbed off. So you'd like to think that a home game for us would have that control, and where our wing backs can then be really attack minded. Obviously, Molyneux then has to change his mindset and is probably more tracking back and defence minded. So it's like a game of chess in a sense, isn't it? But he's certainly going to be a threat. Like as you say, he clearly is a huge part of their recent success and someone their team revolves around, and clearly a threat we're going to have to be wary of.
Yeah, well, obviously you've mentioned Grant McCann as well. He probably will set up to frustrate us, and I guess you'd imagine they'll be looking to sort of catch us on the counter attack. If you look at their average possession, it's actually quite high. Surprisingly, they've got what 54, just over 54%, which is the 8th highest in the league. I was quite surprised by that. To me, Doncaster are a team that, particularly under Grant McCann, would be looking to sort of catch you on the break. I just wanted to look at a couple of the results in particular they've had. First of all, is this against Bradford. Bradford are top of the league at the moment. Obviously, another promoted side, but they beat them 3-1 towards the start of September. So it just shows you sort of what they can do. And that in that game, they had goals from Luke Molyneux, Jordan Gibson, and Billy Sharp. So it's 3 of their sort of key attackers. And it just sort of shows you that they can get results against those good sides in the league. And then the other result, which may be more notable, in the EFL Cup, I think in the first round, they beat a familiar face. They beat Rob Edwards' Middlesbrough side 4-0, which against quite a strong Middlesbrough team as well. The only real changes were in that midfield. They had a lot of first choice players playing in that game, and I think 4-0 away from home against any championship side is something quite significant.
Yeah, I mean it's a statement win, isn't it? Even if it is the League Cup, which probably isn't their priority, their priority will be first and foremost survival in League One, which they're a decent amount of the way on the journey to doing that. But yeah, clearly that is a big statement result. But again, it's we should be coming into every single one of these home games, maybe bar a couple of the big boys, if you like, and thinking it's all about us. If we do what we need to do, we get it right, we should win comfortably. But we're not having that conversation. We're talking about, in this case, rightly so, but we're talking about other teams' threats and the potential of what we need to do to get a grip on the game, which is a bit strange considering I don't think we expected to be revolving a lot of our previews around what the opposition are going to do and their threats, but it's panned out this way quite early in the season, isn't it? So yeah, it's a real banana skin, but every week is right now, and we need to find a way to overcome them.
Yeah, it feels like we're playing Mario Kart at the moment, constantly coming across the banana skins, and at the moment we're hitting every single one of them, spinning off and going off in a different direction. We mentioned it in the last episode, obviously, that it would be a big, big test for not just our players, but Matt Bloomfield as well, because if the result doesn't go our way, it's probably going to turn quite unpleasant in Kenilworth Road in terms of sort of the atmosphere towards him.
Yeah, I mean, look at every scenario. If we win the game, we tick over in a sense, and we could be somewhere around sort of 7th, 8th with a win, with a game in hand on Tuesday night. We'll obviously come on to that at a later date. If we lose and we've then lost 5 of our first 9, I mean that is potentially the point of no return, despite the fact that some of us have said like he gets the next 3 games regardless. I mean, I think we need 7 points minimum from the next 3. But obviously, if you lose at the weekend, that becomes impossible, and I think that probably would be the point of no return, where you've got to do something and change it. If we draw the game, does that really help us at all? Because it's a game that we should be winning, and I don't mean that with disrespect to Doncaster, but it's just a game at home in particular that we should absolutely be winning. And if I would say a draw is probably equally as bad as a defeat. Particularly if we get a really shoddy performance along with it as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a really big game for Bloomfield and his future, and it just has to be a win.
Do you think we'll see him change that system. We saw him go to sort of a 4 at the back in most of the second half, and I feel like we speak about it every single week. We spoke about it under Edwards in the Championship. We're talking about it now again, but you can tell now that Luton fans are really quite sick of the 3 at the back, not seeing anything change when it's clearly not working. We don't have the players really to make it work. We don't really have sort of enough on that left-hand side through Ali. He's not a defender. It's wasting him. It makes more sense to play Bramall as a left-back and give Ali the freedom to roam than it does to have Ali at wing-back and just take away a lot of what he does going forward.
Yeah, I mean, do I expect us to change it? If I'm being brutally honest, no, because Bloomfield mentioned at the weekend that there are certain factors that means we're playing the way we're playing with the formation. So I don't really see why that would change this midweek ahead of Saturday. I'd love to know a bit more around like what those factors are. I mean, it's clearly obvious. There's a couple of them. Like, do we have an out and out right back other than Walters? No, and Walters injured, so that's clearly one thing. But I'd love to be a fly on the wall and know more about what these other factors are. But we're not going to be able to do that. So I don't expect it to change. And if it does change, all it does is beg the question: why now? Why this late when the formation hasn't been working for a few weeks? So it's a lose-lose situation for him. He sticks with the 3 at the back, and everyone moans, and they're entitled to do so, or he changes to a back 4 suddenly, and you think, why now? Because Walters isn't going to be fit, I don't think, on Saturday, and that's the only reason that I think he could change to a back 4 with maybe Walters and Bramall, and you could say, okay, fine, like I can see that because Walters is back. So that's kind of my position on it. I mean, what do you think he'll do on Saturday? Like, what do you think it's going to take for him to want to be able to go to a back 4?
I mean, it's I don't know if it'll have told him enough that when we actually did change to a back 4 at Lincoln, you had fans literally singing about it. I think we've spoke about that on the last pod, and I don't know if that doesn't tell you what people are looking for. I don't know what will, but I don't know. I think unless Walters is fit, it's hard to see him changing it. I don't know if I want Makoso at right back. I just think on the ball he's not confident enough, or not competent enough. Maybe just in possession, he's still developing as a player. So I think it would need Walters to be fit unless he was to try Kadua in there. But I think Kadua is far more attacking than you'd be looking for
Yeah.
from someone in that position.
Yeah, I mean the only thing to add to this, I think it was Jeff Daw that mentioned it on the post match the other day. If Lomvike's been brought in to play centre back, like Bloomfield said as much as that in recent weeks. I think when McGuinness left, it was alluded to. That's a gap for Lomvike. He was brought in to be a centre half. Obviously, he played right wing back on Saturday. So he's out of position at right wing back. What would be the difference between that and him being out of position at right back and playing a conventional back 4 where you've got Lomvike, like Mengi and Anderson, or Mengi and Naismith and Bramall? I don't see the difference between playing the guy out of position right back or slightly deeper in right wing back or slightly deeper at right back. So that to me is a bit of a strange one. And then you look at Bramall, who most of his career has played a conventional left back. So it just, yeah, it's really quite strange, and it seems to be a lot simpler to us supporters as to what we can do to solve that than it appears to be to the management. Clearly we know best. So yeah, it's a concerning one, really.
Yeah, you're right about Longvite there. I think he is the one player maybe that you'd think you could put him into that right back position and he could do the job there. He's played left back before, as far as I know, for other sides where he's been on loan, or before where he was on loan from Wolves previously. He is right footed, so it seems to make sense playing him on that right side. If he's been trusted to play wing back, why not put him at full back and have a more attacking left hand side and allow him to sit a bit more? I guess it gives Morris or someone else on that right hand side freedom to push forward a lot more, and he can sit back and let his man go in front of him.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. And that in theory is a solution while Walters is out. Um, I would agree that I think Kadua probably is too attacking to be a right back. Probably a bit like Izzy Jones. Like I wouldn't play Izzy Jones right back. He's a right wing back or he's a right forward, and I would say the same with Kadua there. But Lomvik, I'm sure, is capable of playing right back. So there is an option to do that, and there is a back four that you can put out that does more than a decent enough job if he wants to do it. So yeah, going back to your question, like if he changes, you think why have you been so stubborn? And if he doesn't, you just carry on the same questions from last weekend, really.
Yeah, when those same questions are being asked, becomes increasingly frustrating. But I'm going to ask you a question, ask you quite regularly, and that's for a score prediction. So we're going to let you go first.
um, I so I looking at stats. I mean, Doncaster, I think they've played 4 away from home, won 2, lost 2, only scored 4. Um, equally, we've only scored 4 at home. So I think it's going to be a low scoring game. Um, I do think we will win. I think it's going to be quite a dire 1-0 win. Now, obviously, in the whole scheme of things, in the bigger picture, does that do enough for Bloomfield to stay in a job? Yes, probably until we get to Blackpool away on Tuesday night. Will it appease fans if that is the case? Then it probably won't change anyone's opinions right now. But yeah, I do think we'll get the win. So I'm going to go for a very scrappy, probably quite boring 1-0 win.
You're not really selling the game to me. I am going, but none
Yeah,
of none of
I'll be
that
there as
really
well.
really sold the idea of being there to me. I think it'll be similar though. Unfortunately, I do think it'll be a bit scrappy. I think we'll have to. I mean, we will have to work hard for it, and I think that's something that maybe we haven't seen. I don't know if you can criticise the efforts of the players, but maybe where they're focusing those efforts needs looking at a bit because we seem to be wasting possession so much. And it makes it hard to see us score more than 1 or 2 goals in a game because we just can't string anything together. We seem to be throwing balls long every time without a target up there at times. But I think Nordas will come back in, and I think he'll be involved in a goal. And I'm going to go for a 2-1 Luton win, which hopefully doesn't come back to bite me. Um, so that's 1-0 from you, 2-1 from me. Let us know your score predictions if you're listening in the usual way, so in the comments or on social media. But we're going to go to a quick break now. When we get back, we'll be discussing some of your comments when we asked about Bloomfield's future on X or Twitter. And we'll also be playing a game that I haven't told Adam what the game is yet. So join us in the second half for that. Welcome back to the Oak Road Hatter podcast. You're still joined by myself and Adam, and we're going to look at a question we asked on social media. So the question for the pod was, last season the board gave Rob Edwards 26 league games before parting ways. At what point this season does a similar assessment need to be made? Before we look at some of the answers, I'm going to ask you that question first, Adam.
Yeah. So I think for me, Bloomfield gets the next 3 games with a need as for 7 points as minimum. So that's obviously Doncaster at home on Saturday, Blackpool away on Tuesday night, and then Stevenage away the following Saturday. And then after that, we're likely to have a postponement with the Huddersfield game, I think, because of international call up. So yeah, 3 games. But as I said earlier on, it needs to be a minimum of 7 points. So if you lose to Doncaster on Saturday, that becomes impossible, and for me, that's enough. Now it might sound harsh. It might sound like a big change of tune from me, but I've wanted to back Bloomfield, and I've wanted for us to show intent and like I've wanted us to just go at the league basically with the summer, the good summer we've had, and whatever, and the transition, but we haven't. Um, and as I said earlier in the week, the last 2 games have really rung alarm bells to me, particularly Saturday. and I'm not. I don't have the patience this season that maybe we should have because of old wounds. So yeah, as I say, it might sound like a change of tune, but for me, he gets 3 games. We need 7 points, and if at some point that becomes impossible during those 3 games, then for me that's enough to say, you've had the opportunity. This isn't going to work out, and we start the search for somebody else.
Yeah, I think I've got to agree that I want to like Bloomfield and I want to get behind him, but it's increasingly difficult to get behind him when he's not really offering anything to sort of latch onto. Um, Edwards, he was emotional, he was connected to the club. You felt that he really cared, and I'm sure Bloomfield does care because it's literally he's being paid to do it. But it just feels very different to what we had under Edwards. Obviously, very different personalities, and then Nathan Jones as well. Again, completely different. So Bloomfield seems like a nice bloke, but that's about it for me at the moment. And I'm struggling to find anything to get behind at the moment. I do want it to work. Just at the moment, I'm struggling to see it working just because he has lost a lot of Luton fans as it is, and I think when we start to turn, it does sort of end up shifting a bit quickly, unless he really turns things around, which I hope he can do. But we're going to look at some of the responses we got on X, and we actually did get a lot of responses. I think a lot more very, very quickly than we were expecting. So we'll just go through a couple of them. So Steve Castle, who we know quite well, says, in my opinion, he's got Saturday to show something different. Even if we win on Saturday, that needs to move to the next game. Until we can see constant improvement, he's on notice. I repeat, he should never have been given the job in the first place. So that is quite a damning statement.
Yeah, just to pick that apart a little bit. So I like the phrase of he's on notice. Essentially, that's kind of what I mean. We win Saturday, great. That's 3 points, but it is on a rolling basis right now. Because there's no point in winning a game, you know, and saying that it relieves any pressure when it doesn't, does it? Because then you can just go and have a shocker, and it doesn't make a difference that you've won the week before. So yeah, I like that phrase of on notice. I'd go along with that. With regards to not being the right man in the first place, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say he was my first choice because he wasn't. I don't think he was anybody's first choice. But we were desperate for change from Rob Edwards, um, and you just got behind it, didn't you? It was a guy that came in off the back of having Wickham in the top 2 or top of the league or something like that at the time, um, with an identity, a formation that ironically he's barely played with us, and you could get behind it to that extent, even though it probably wasn't number one choice. So I don't necessarily agree that he was never the right man, but yeah, he is running out of time because we can't let this season just fall by without any intention or any seriousness about us, and we stumble across the January, see where we are we in touch with this or that? Like, you just can't do that. So yeah, I think he certainly is on notice until for the foreseeable future.
We're going to talk. We've got a few more comments here. So Richard Bowen says, "Now, why wait? It's clear from the regression in our play and the poor results that Bloomfield is out of his depth. Add the worrying noises coming from the players in interviews and the away fans turning. It's over. Give the new guy a chance to evaluate the squad," which is a pretty damning statement. I think it's quite clear how Richard feels, and I guess what he's referencing there is the interview from Clark after the Lincoln game, where he was pretty not critical as such about Bloomfield, but about that he basically said the players don't know what's going wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that's another element that you look at. You look at, we've talked about press conferences, whether it's Bloomfield or players. Um, there appear to be cracks in players understanding what it is they're meant to be doing or what we're trying to do. And yeah, I mean, I don't know whether I'd go as far to say that he's sort of lost control of the dressing room or doesn't have the respect of the players, but clearly the players don't appear to be understanding what we're trying to achieve. And those instructions come from Bloomfield and his coaching staff. We've got a lot of good footballers at the club that know how to play different ways, but if they're not, if they don't have the clarity and instructions, then that's another massive concern, isn't it? And Bloomfield said on post match the other day around, we need to find a different way of delivering the same message. Well, maybe the message being delivered is the thing that needs to change, not the way it's being delivered. So yeah, I mean, it is obviously quite a bold comment that we've just gone through, but it's hard to disagree with certain elements of it, like the players and how they react to what he wants to do.
I've got a couple more that I just wanted to have a look at. Friend of the pod, Kev Lennon, says the constant changing of the team, not knowing who his best 11 are, the lack of any real identity on the pitch, and the shambolic showing at Lincoln after a poor show last week, together with his pressers, are more than enough red flags for me. He's quite simply out of his depth. He's a modern day manager too interested in what the guys with iPads say. 40 touches in the opposition box means nothing if you don't create or force the keeper into saves. Use your eyes rather than overanalyzing, for God's sake.
I mean, I can't disagree with it. He is stat driven, and that drives us mad as fans because we don't care whether we have 4 shots in the box and they all go in, or whether we have 40 and 1 goes in and we lose the game. Like, fans don't give a shit about those sort of stats. Like, I mean, don't get me started on things like XG. It's just absolute nonsense. And given the predicament that we're in as supporters over the last couple of years, if there's one fan base in the country where you shouldn't be banging on about irrelevant stats, it's to Luton fans. So yeah, that does not help him in any way, because like he needs to drop that whole um, trying to gloss over poor results, whether it's a draw or a defeat, with irrelevant stats essentially.
I just wanted to look at one more here because it's slightly different actually in terms of the time frame. And he said, Bennett says, after half a dozen games of a full squad, big puzzle pieces, Al Hamady, Izzy Jones, Oduffin, Walters still missing, but start when fit. If we still can't win, the cause of the problems is obvious. Eli, Jacob Brown, Marv, Walsh and Baptiste don't count. They won't be involved this year. So I guess that gives you a quite significantly longer time frame. I think Izzy Jones is out for a little while yet, and we don't know when Oduffin will next feature, really.
Yeah, but then why wait for certain players to come back? Because we know full well that within this Luton squad, by the time someone comes back, someone else important will be injured. And then what do you do then? You go, oh yeah, but he's still not got a full quota, or he's still not got X, Y, and Z players playing together, so we can't judge him. Well, that's why you build a squad. So I don't quite buy that. Like, oh, we need to judge him with these players available or whatever. You can't do that. We have a squad that, in its depth, yes, we only registered 19, but we've got a lot of younger players that are more than good enough, more than ready right now. So we have a deep squad of quality, and that is enough to judge him on. And as we've said, if we can't show identity to our play, good performances, and get results, then something will need to change. And it certainly shouldn't be waiting for another squad overhaul whenever that would happen, because that isn't going to happen, is it, in January, to be honest? So yeah, I don't fully get on board with that last one. How long do you let the season play out to nothingness? And we just can't afford to do that again this season.
Yeah, there's only so long you can wait for sort of nothing to really emerge on the pitch, and then you're just waiting around for the season to end, I guess. So it would be a case of sooner rather than later. If we aren't picking up results, we can't just wait for players to come back from injury, because we do have a pretty good squad for the level. We're certainly better in terms of the players and the individuals we have than what we're showing at the moment. So keep letting us know your thoughts on that. When do you think Bloomfield's time will be up? When do you want it to be up? And when do you think the board will decide it's up? But as I mentioned, we're going to move on to a game now, Adam. So I've got in front of me Luton's last 4 results against Doncaster. And I'm going to ask you to name a goal scorer from some of those different games. So we're going to start off with a hopefully fairly easy one. So the last time we played them was at home on the 23rd of March 2019. We won 4-0. Can you name either the third or the fourth goal scorer in that game?
2019. Jeez. League One must have been the League One winning season. And the third or fourth goal scorers. Bloody hell. Really put me under pressure here, haven't you? I'll go Elliot Lee.
Elliot Lee was involved in the game. However, he didn't score in the game. He was a midfielder, so I'll give you one more chance.
Berry?
Yeah, Berry got the fourth goal. The goal
I'll
scorers
take that.
in that
You
game.
always rely on Luke Berry.
The goal scorers in that game in order were Pelly, Danny Hilton, Loa, and Luke Berry. So I've got a couple more here. Before that, we lost 2-1 away from home. Can you name the goal scorer for Luton in that game?
What year was it?
It was the same season. It was in September, so it's quite early on in the season.
Ooh. This is tough, man. I needed forewarning to research and cheat. I who am I going to go with? Struggling to think who else we had. I'll go. Who am I going to go with? I'll go with Danny Hilton.
You should have stuck with your guns on the first question. It was Elliot Lee.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
One more, and this one is actually really hard. I don't think you might not be able to get this one, but I'll be impressed if you do. Before that, we last played them on the 18th of February 2017 in League Two, and it was a 1-1 draw. The goal scorer for Doncaster that day was Alfie May. But can you name the Luton goal scorer from midfield?
So this is 2017 in League Two.
It was, yeah.
God, I'm trying to think of like players we had in the team then. Who was in charge in 2017? Was it Nathan?
It was Nathan Jones.
Bloody hell. I'll go Ollie Lee.
No, Ollie Lee didn't actually feature in the game. The goal scorer, and I don't think I would have guessed this one either. It was Jordan Cook.
Jeez, I mean, I'd literally forgotten about that guy. Like, I'm really sorry if you happen to listen to the podcast, Jordan. But yeah, I wouldn't have got that with 100 guesses. I don't think.
Yeah, if you are listening to the podcast, let us know, Jordan. We'd love to have you on. The person who got the assist that day for Luton was Isaac Vassell. So I don't know if you'd have been able to get that one either.
I think the problem is that we've had, like such a transition of squads in recent seasons. You go back and you think about like the League Two team that came up under John Still, obviously then how different that was to the team that Nathan built in League Two. Then we obviously kept quite a lot of them into League One when we won it. But yeah, I mean it's tough going back even sort of like 7 or 8 years and trying to think of those players that seem a distant memory given everything that we've been through, really.
Do you want one more?
I mean, not really, but I suppose we might as well.
Slightly different. Before that, the last time we played them was the 24th of September 2016. Can you name the player that both assisted and got sent off?
Was it at home?
It was at home. We won 3-1.
Jesus. Oh, God.
I'll give you a clue.
Go on.
The Luton's goal scorers that day were Cam McGeehan, who got 2, and Jack Marriott.
And someone else got an assist and got sent off.
Yep.
Can I have an initial?
I mean, that sort of gives it away.
Or a first name initial?
D.
D. Bloody hell. Have we signed Danny Hilton then?
We had signed Danny Hilton.
I'll go with Hilton.
Yeah, it was Danny Hilton.
Oh, there you go. Okay. I just thought about who's going to be involved in a goal and then who's going to be sent off. And I thought, well, maybe like McCormack maybe or someone like that. But, I mean, Hiltz was a bit of a nutter, wasn't he? So, yeah, safe bet, I suppose.
I might bring this game back for the next preview pod and see if we can get someone else involved as well and stop playing on people off against each other. And you can always play along at home if you're listening to the podcast. So if you did try and play along, let us know in the comments how you got on. But from myself and from Adam, that is everything for today. Hopefully, we'll be talking about the Doncaster result as a win for Luton. But whether or not that happens, we'll know on Saturday. So thank you very much for listening and see you on Saturday.